Chosen one, put your hand on your chest for just one moment. Not as an exercise, just feel what's there. That tightness, that weight sitting just beneath your sternum that doesn't fully release even when the room is quiet, even when there's nothing immediately wrong, even when you tell yourself again that you're going to stop doing this. You know what I'm talking about. That low hum of something that never fully turns off. The thoughts that start before your eyes are open in the morning. The mental arithmetic you run about the future, the same calculations you did yesterday and the day before. And nothing has changed except that you've worn yourself out running the same numbers over and over again. I'm not going to tell you not to feel that. What I'm going to do, what I believe you came here today to hear, is tell you what that feeling actually means. Because it is not what you think it is. Before we go any further, I want you to know what is waiting for you in this message, because I don't want you to miss it. By the time we reach the end, you are going to understand something about the way God operates that will completely change how you hold every unanswered prayer on your list. You are going to understand why the silence has not been abandonment. You are going to walk away with a new interpretation of the season you are in right now, one that makes sense of the waiting in a way that nothing else has. And there is a revelation toward the end of this message about who you actually are and what you have been selected to carry, that I believe is the real reason you are here today. Stay until the end. I promise you, you will not regret it. Now, let me show you something. There is a specific kind of tired that I want to name right now, because most people have never heard anyone put accurate words to it. It is not the tired of someone who has done too much. It is not burnout from overwork, though that might be part of it. This tired is deeper than that. It is the tired of someone who has been carrying hope for too long in a body that is running on empty. Who has prayed, genuinely prayed, with everything they had, and heard what felt like silence on the other side. Who has watched other people step into the very things they've been believing for, and felt that complicated mix of joy for them and a quiet grief they're ashamed to admit to themselves. It is the tired of waking up at 2 in the morning with your mind already running, already at the bank account, already at the relationship, already at the thing that hasn't shifted yet, rehearsing every possible version of a situation you cannot control, turning it over and over, looking for the angle you missed, the mistake you made, the reason this hasn't moved. And underneath all of that, underneath the calculation and the rehearsal and the unanswered questions, there is a thought that slips through when you are too tired to stop it. What if it doesn't come? What if I've been wrong about all of this? What if I missed something that closed a door I can't reopen? I want you to hear me on this. That thought is not a verdict. It is not discernment. It is not God adjusting your expectations downward. It is the sound, the very specific sound of a person who does not yet know what has already been approved for them. And there are things already happening inside you right now that tell a completely different story than the one anxiety has been narrating. Let me show them to you. The first thing I want you to notice is a restlessness that feels different from the anxious kind. Not the restlessness of something going wrong, but the restlessness of something pulling. Like a current beneath the surface of your life that keeps moving no matter how still you try to stay. Like something in you knows it is time to move, even when your circumstances haven't given you permission yet. The second thing is that old things are losing their grip. Things that used to comfort you, distractions that used to work, ways of numbing that used to be enough, they're not landing the way they used to. And instead of feeling like freedom, that loss feels disorienting, like the ground under something familiar has quietly shifted. The third thing is an increase in sensitivity. You feel more. You sense things in rooms before they're spoken. You're bothered by things that used to slide right past you. You feel people's energy in a way you can't always explain, and sometimes it is a gift, and sometimes it is just exhausting. The fourth thing is a knowing, not loud, not dramatic, a quiet, persistent knowing that something is different, something is shifting, Something is on the edge of changing, and you're afraid to trust it because you've been here before, and you didn't want to be wrong again. And the fifth thing, and this may be the most important one, is that your prayers have been changing. Less about what you want, more about who you want to become. Less asking for the outcome, more asking to be the kind of person who can hold it well when it arrives. Chosen one, these are not signs of spiritual stagnation. These are not signs of someone being left behind. These are signs of someone being prepared. And if that word prepared feels too vague right now, if it feels like something people say when they have nothing more concrete to offer, I want you to stay with me, because I am about to make it very specific. Here is the first thing I need you to understand. And I want you to receive this not as encouragement, not as something designed simply to make you feel better in the moment, but as an actual reframe of something you have been told your whole life. You've been told that worry is a lack of faith. That anxiety is the evidence of a trust problem. That if you really believed if your faith were strong enough, the fear would go. And you have tried. You have tried to believe harder. You have tried to cast the care and let it go. You have spoken the words, written them down, repeated them until they lost their feeling. And the anxiety came back. And somewhere in the returning of it, you concluded that the problem was you. I want to offer you a completely different interpretation. Worry is not a faith problem. Worry is what happens when someone who genuinely cares about their future cannot see the full picture of what is already in motion on their behalf. Think about what worry actually is underneath the feeling. It is a calculation. Your mind running every scenario it can access, looking for the one where things work out, and coming up empty because the information it needs is not available yet. There is a threat detection mechanism deep in the brain that cannot tell the difference between a danger that is present and an uncertainty that is unresolved. It treats both as emergencies. It floods your body with the same response either way. This is not a spiritual failure. This is biology doing exactly what it was designed to do. The problem is not that you worry. The problem is that the worrying mind can only work with what it can see. And what has been approved for your life exists in a realm the anxious mind cannot access. There is a woman in the oldest wisdom literature whose story I think of often when I sit with someone in this kind of waiting. Her name was Hannah, and she had carried an unanswered prayer for so long that the grief had become part of how she moved through the world, quiet, interior, a weight that never fully left, even when everything around her was fine. She went to the temple one day, and she prayed in a way most people never pray. Not with composed and carefully arranged words. She prayed from a place so deep that the only thing coming out was the movement of her lips, silent, shaking. The priest watching her thought she was drunk. He had no idea he was watching one of the most precise moments of divine reception in the entire text. What Hannah didn't know, what she couldn't have known from inside the grief, was that the answer was already forming. The provision was already in motion. The reversal was already written. She just couldn't see it from where she was standing. Her not knowing was not evidence she was forgotten. The silence was not evidence she was unheard. The gap between what she could see and what was already decided was not a gap in God's attention. It was a gap in her information. Chosen one, the waiting you are in right now is not God's absence. It is the distance between what you can see and what is already written. But I want to go one layer deeper than that, because there is something underneath the information gap that most people never talk about. Something about the actual mechanism, the frequency your brain and body need to be in to receive what is already moving on your behalf. This is where everything starts to connect. When you were young, really young, before school had its full weight on you, before the pressure to perform had settled in your brain, operated in a completely different state. Think about what that was like. Learning was almost effortless, not because you tried harder, because the brain of a young child is running in a frequency that is simply more open, more receptive, more capable of pattern recognition and intuition and trust without needing to justify it first. Researchers who measure brain activity have documented something remarkable. The brainwave state that children naturally access, the one linked to peak clarity, heightened intuition, sudden insight. What scientists call the flow state is called the gamma frequency. And what the data shows, studied across multiple major research institutions, is that this frequency, the one your brain was born with, the one that was fully active in your childhood, begins to suppress around age 7. Not because of anything you did wrong, because of what modern life does to the nervous system over time. The chronic low-grade stress of a world that never stops demanding. The way prolonged anxiety trains the brain to stay locked in survival mode rather than the open, receptive state it was actually designed for. Dr. Robert Lake, a neuroscientist with 34 years of documented research behind him, calls what this creates the decline effect. The slow suppression of the brainwave state that connects you to your highest functioning, your intuition, your clarity, your capacity to sense what is moving beneath the surface of your life. And here is where this connects directly to everything we have been talking about. When your brain is locked in a chronic survival frequency, the low-band stress state where anxiety lives, it physically cannot access the kind of perception that would allow you to sense what has been approved for your life. The deeper knowing, the spiritual signal, the subtle shift in the atmosphere that says something is moving, even when nothing has changed on the surface yet. This is not metaphor. The gamma frequency is the band where genuine insight, intuition, and spiritual perception actually occur. When that frequency is suppressed, those signals don't land clearly. Not because they aren't being sent, because the receiver is no longer tuned to receive them. Dr. Lake spent years developing a way to restore this, not through biofeedback therapy, which runs at $300 per hour, and not through specialized home equipment that can cost $7,000, and not through years of meditation practice that most people in demanding, full lives simply cannot sustain. A 7-minute audio experience, using sound frequencies specifically calibrated to guide the brain back into the gamma state, the one it was born with, the one modern life suppressed. You wear headphones. You close your eyes. You listen. The brain responds not because you forced it to, but because it recognizes something it used to know. The original price for this technology was $49, less than one single session with a biofeedback therapist. But Dr. Lake wanted this to reach the people who genuinely need it, not only the ones who can afford premium options. So for anyone watching this specific message, the price has been reduced to $39. That price is not available on Amazon. It is not available anywhere else. It is specifically for you, here, through the link I have left in the description and the pinned comment of this message. And with it, at no additional cost, you receive 4 resources, a separate audio track designed to support children's focus and confidence, the original book that inspired The Secret with a more grounded and practical approach to the financial principles inside it, a guided visualization for the 4 areas of life most people want to transform, and a daily habits reference for building toward the life you are meant for. All of it under 100% money-back guarantee. No conditions, no time restrictions on how many times you've listened. You either feel the difference or you don't pay. I want to be honest about what this is. It is a tool. It is not a shortcut around the formation process we've been talking about. It is support, something that addresses the biological layer of why receiving and perceiving clearly has become harder than it was designed to be. For those whose nervous systems have been trained by years of pressure and uncertainty to stay in survival mode, sometimes something is needed that speaks directly to the body's frequency before the mind can follow. One important thing: there are counterfeit versions circulating under similar names, with no actual entrainment technology embedded in them. Ordinary audio, no active effect. The only way to receive the original technology, the 4 bonuses, and the money-back protection is through the single link I've provided. Do not search for this anywhere else. Now, there is more I need to show you. Because the frequency question, the brain question, is only the second layer of what is actually happening in your season. And the third layer is the one that will change how you read everything. Everything we've walked through today, the information gap, the suppressed frequency, why the signal isn't landing clearly from inside. The waiting, all of it has been leading toward a truth that is larger than any of it alone. A truth about what has actually been approved and why the preparation has been this specific and what you are being made ready to carry. Stay with me, we are not done yet. Chosen one, I want to tell you about a man sitting at the bottom of a pit. Not a metaphorical pit, an actual hole in the ground, in the middle of a desert, with no water in it and no way out, and the sound of his brothers eating a meal above him as if nothing had happened. His name was Joseph, and he had been given a dream, a large dream, an impossible dream, the kind of dream that makes you feel chosen and set apart, and like something enormous is being written for your life. And then, in the span of one afternoon, everything that looked like the beginning of that dream was taken from him by the people who were supposed to protect him. He didn't know it yet. He couldn't know it yet. But above him, while he sat in that pit, a transaction was taking place. 20 pieces of silver, and the man who would buy him would bring him to a country he had never seen, where a set of circumstances would unfold, each one looking like a setback, each one looking like another door closing that would position him precisely and exactly into the only role in the world from which he could save millions of lives. He couldn't see the palace from the pit. He couldn't see the famine and the nations and the day his brothers would stand before him and the moment he would say, not with bitterness, not with revenge, you meant this for harm, but it was being used for something I could not have understood while it was happening. Chosen one, what I want to ask you gently, because I know the question lands in a tender place, is this. What if what looks like your hardest season is not happening to you? What if it is happening through you? What if the pit is not the end of the story, but the beginning of the only path that leads to the assignment you were born for? There is another story. A young shepherd boy, anointed with oil in a field, chosen by God for the greatest leadership role in his nation's history. And then nothing. Years. Not a crown, not a throne, not even a public acknowledgement of what had already been decided about him. Just more sheep, more wilderness, more silence that looked, from the outside, like nothing was happening. David's waiting was not God forgetting. It was God refusing to let him arrive as someone who hadn't yet become the man the role required. The throne was always his. But the man who could hold the throne wisely, that man had to be forged first. In the wilderness, in the hiding, in the years that looked like delay. And here is the third truth I want you to hold. Most people who wait for God's approval are waiting for God to approve their circumstances, the job, the relationship, the financial shift, the open door. And those things are real, and they matter, and they are coming. But the deeper thing that gets approved first, always, is not the outcome. It is the person who will be capable of carrying it. What God has been approving in this season is not just the next chapter of your life, it is you. The version of you that can hold what is coming without being broken by it, without being corrupted by it, without losing what was formed in the waiting the moment the waiting is over. And I need to name what makes this season hard to receive, because ignoring it would be dishonest. The hardest part of formation is that it requires you to loosen your grip on control. And I understand why that is terrifying. Control is not a character flaw. Control is what a person develops when they have learned, somewhere along the way, that they cannot fully trust that someone else is managing things on their behalf. When disappointment has come enough times that hoping without managing feels reckless. When surrendering feels indistinguishable from losing. So you manage, you plan, you run the scenarios, you try to know the timeline before it arrives so that the arrival doesn't catch you off guard. And underneath all of that management is a question that has never fully been answered for you. What if I stop holding this so tightly and it falls apart? I cannot give you a timeline. I will not tell you the specific day this shifts, because that is not something I know. And telling you would not be honest. What I can tell you is what every major story of formation has shown, across every wisdom tradition, across every culture that has carried this truth for thousands of years. The breakthrough does not come when you manage it into existence. It comes when you become the person who is no longer trying to force it. When the grip finally opens, when surrender stops feeling like giving up and starts feeling like trust. That threshold, the one you may be standing on right now, is the most uncomfortable part of the entire arc, and it is also the closest you have ever been. Now, I need to show you the center of everything we've been building toward today. The truth that makes Revelations 1 and 2 and 3 not separate teachings, but one single architecture. The thing that, when you understand it, will change not just how you hold the waiting, but how you understand your entire story. Here it is, spoken slowly, because it deserves the space. What was approved for your life was not simply your next chapter. What was approved was the assignment you carry for other people. The thing you uniquely hold, the thing that was built in you through everything you have survived and everything you have carried and every season that felt like it was breaking you rather than forming you. That thing is not for you alone. You are a cycle breaker. And I do not say that as a metaphor. There are people in your family line, in your community, in the circles you move through, who are still caught in patterns that have run for generations, patterns of fear, of scarcity, of unworthiness, of relationships that repeat the same wound. And your life, this one, the one that has cost you so much, is designed to be the place where those patterns end. You are a hope restorer. There are rooms you will walk into. You may have already walked into some of them without knowing where hope had been given up on, where people had decided it wasn't coming, it wasn't real, it wasn't for them. And something about the way you are present changes the atmosphere, not because you are performing hope, because you carry it in a way that is convincing, because you found it on the other side of the exact place where they have given up. You are a light bearer, not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind, the kind who stays when others leave, who listens in a way that makes people feel less alone, who holds space for people's worst moments without flinching, because you yourself have sat in your own worst moment and you know that it does not have the final word. These are not things you will become, they are things you are. The preparation has been making them more available, more accessible, more ready to be expressed at full strength. And the approval the one God issued for your life, long before you could understand what it was for, was not a permission slip for a comfortable outcome. It was a commission, a selecting, a deliberate placing of a specific kind of person in a specific position for a specific purpose. In the ancient Hebrew text, there is a word for this kind of divine approval, ratzah. It does not simply mean permission, it means to delight in, to be pleased with, to select with intention and joy. When God approves something in this sense, it is not a passive response to a request. It is an active declaration of pleasure over something He specifically chose. Chosen one, ratzah has been spoken over your life. Not because you performed well enough, not because you figured out the right formula, because you were selected. Because what you carry, exactly what you carry, is what is needed for the people who are waiting for you to arrive at full expression. Stop worrying, not because the circumstances are resolved, not because the path is clear, but because the approval is real. And real approval, the kind that comes from a source nothing in this world can revoke. It does not expire while you're waiting to understand it. You have no idea what was just approved for you, the size of it, the reach of it, the way it will touch people you haven't met yet in ways you cannot currently imagine, but it has been approved, and you are the only one who can carry it. Now I want to give you 3 things to hold, practically, not as assignments, but as shifts in perception that you can begin right now from wherever you are. The first shift is in how you read the waiting. Every day that feels like delay is a day of specific preparation. The question is not, why hasn't this arrived yet? The question is, what is being built in me today that will be essential when it does? Start there. Even just as a thought you return to once, it changes the quality of the day. The second shift is in what you do with the worry when it comes back. Because it will come back. Not because you failed to receive this message, but because the nervous system has patterns, and patterns don't change overnight. When anxiety rises, treat it as a signal, not a verdict. It is telling you that your frequency has dropped, not that your situation is hopeless. Return to stillness. Return to the body. Even 30 seconds of breathing slowly, one hand on your chest, choosing to release the calculation one more time. It is not magic. It is maintenance. The third shift is in how you hold your identity. Stop rehearsing who you were in your hardest moments as the truest definition of yourself. Start speaking even quietly, even just inwardly, to who you are being formed to be. Not as something you're hoping will one day be true, as something that is already true, that the preparation has been making more available. I want to say something before we close. I don't know your specific timeline. I cannot tell you the exact date this shifts. What I can tell you is the pattern, and the pattern is consistent across every story of formation that has been told across thousands of years of human experience. The formation season ends, the approval lands in the visible, and when it does, the people who walked through it faithfully look back and understand that not a single day was wasted. If today feels too heavy to fully receive everything I've shared, hold it loosely. Let it settle where it can. Come back to it when you need it. This will still be true tomorrow. Now, let me close this with you the way it was meant to be closed. God, we are grateful, not for easy seasons, for the ones that formed us, for every night that felt like too much and somehow still turned into a morning, for the preparation that looked, from the inside, indistinguishable from punishment, but was always architecture. We are grateful for presence in the places where we felt most alone, for the prayers that were heard in the silence we could not penetrate, for the approval that was issued before we knew we needed it. We thank you for staying close in the waiting. You see what was carried into this moment, the weight that doesn't have a name but lives right here, just beneath the surface. You see the questions that were held in the dark, the ones too fragile to speak out loud, the ones asked in the middle of the night, when the courage to believe was at its lowest. You see every moment of faithfulness that went unwitnessed by any other human eye. Every time the choice was made to stay rather than abandon the hope. Every morning where getting up was an act of trust, when nothing in the circumstances justified it. You see all of it, and you have not looked away. So now we release. We release the verdict that delay equals denial. Release. We release the shame of still worrying after all the praying. Release. We release the timeline we invented that God never agreed to. Release. We release the old comparison, the measuring of our story against someone else's pace, someone else's chapter, someone else's visible evidence. Release. We release the grief of the version of ourselves that is dying to make room for the one being formed. Release. We release the need to manage what we were never meant to control. Release. We release the false verdict that silence means absence. Release. We release every word spoken over us by people who did not know what they were looking at. Release. We release the version of faith that requires certainty before trust. Release. We release it all. We let it go. We open our hands. Now we call forth. We call forth the cycle breaker rising in full strength, no longer carrying what was handed down, ending what was never supposed to continue. We call forth the hope restorer walking into rooms and atmospheres and relationships, and something in those spaces shifting because of the specific frequency this one carries. We call forth the light bearer present, grounded, unhurried, the kind of light that doesn't burn out because it is not performing, it is simply being. We activate the connections that are aligned with the assignment. The right people arriving at the right moment for the right reasons. Not all the people that are part of what is being built. We open the doors that have been held closed by disbelief, not by demanding, by becoming the person who is ready to walk through them. And we align provision with purpose, not the other way around. What is needed will follow what is built. We receive this. We cover what is rising. The breakthrough is close, and we know that is exactly when self-sabotage speaks the loudest. We cover the rising from every internal voice that would pull it back down. What has been built in this season, let it not be dismantled by fear in the moment of arrival. We guard what is being formed, what has been approved at the level of heaven. Let nothing at the level of circumstance revoke it. Now, I am a cycle breaker. I am a hope restorer. I am a light bearer. I am someone who was prepared, not punished. I am someone whose waiting was architecture, not abandonment. We are the ones who were called before we understood the calling. We are the ones who stayed when staying was the hardest thing. We are chosen, not because of performance, because of selection. And what has been approved for us, what has been issued at a level nothing in this world can revoke, we receive it now, all of it. It is done. It is sealed. We receive it. In Jesus' name, Amen. Chosen one, if this message landed for you today, if something in here reached the exact place that needed to be reached, type the word approved in the comments right now. Not for me, for yourself, as a declaration that you have received what was sent here for you. And if someone came to your mind while you were watching this, someone in the middle of their own pit, their own wilderness, their own season of not yet knowing what has been approved for them, share this with them. That is not an accident. That is part of why you were here today. I'll see you in the next one. Go carry what you carry. The world is waiting for you.